Welcome to Democracy Pulse, a fireside chat with me, Kalechi Mumo. And we are here to continue with a wonderful conversation that began with us looking at governance and how we can bring in a different perspective of actually focusing on the prevention of gender-based violence. Now, today we are here on this amazing fireside chat produced by the Oslo Center and Semabox with the support of the European Union. And we want to hear from you. We want you to talk to us, give us some feedback, let us know what you think of the conversations. Talk to us on our social media handles at the Oslo Center using the hashtag TheDemocracyPulse and hashtag 16 Days of Activism. Today, we have amazing women with us, amazing women who are going to be sharing with us just how we can change the way we approach the policies and in implementing them to the ground when it comes to gender-based violence. And our first panelist is a Kenyan ordained Anglican minister and influential leader in social transformation. She's currently serving as the executive director of Hatua Trust, the faith-based organization focused on inspiring Christians for social change. She holds the position of Church Partnerships Coordinator for International Justice Mission, that is IJIM, and in Kenya, and with deep commitment to both faith and social justice. This Minister of Faith is also a doctor, and she's an advocate to Christians embracing civic responsibility, drawing from her extensive leadership qualities in the church and backed by her academic background. Welcome, Reverend Dr. Linda Ochola
Thank you very
Adolwa.
much.
We are excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Joining us as well is a woman who has had an amazing career, and she's been giving us a lot to think about as she is the president of the ODM Women's League, a key position within the ODM movement, and she is definitely a president in her own right. She plays a critical role in advocating for women's rights and empowering women within the political sphere. She is very vocal in terms of gender equality, fighting for policies that promote inclusivity and the greater participation of women leadership in roles across the nation. Welcome, Senator Beth Syengo.
Thank you.
It's amazing to have you. I think, Senator, I was very pleasantly surprised to find out you're also a reverend.
Yes, I'm an ordained reverend.
Wow. So where's your church and when am I coming?
Thank you. I serve under other ministers, but I fellowship with Full Gospel Churches of Kenya.
Fantastic. Lovely to have you two here.
Thank you.
And just excited to hear you add your voices to this conversation. And Reverend Linda, if I could begin with you, you know, as women, the word of God actually tells us that we should be submitted to our husbands. And, you know, sometimes that has been misused, misunderstood, and leaving gap for there to be situations where, as a woman, if you speak up, even in a Christian home, you could be put to a challenge of finding yourself in a gender-based situation, gender-based violence situation. How can the religious teachings be leveraged to shift that cultural attitude and prevent just gender-based violence at that community level, at the home level? Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think maybe what I would say in terms of my own assessment of how women have been subjected to gender-based violence and that has been justified using religious teachings, I think I would be so bold as to say that sometimes there is an over-reliance on particular texts to the exclusion of others. And I think that the biggest, one of the biggest roles that scholars, religious leaders, and teachers can do is to interpret and reinterpret texts that have been misinterpreted and dismantle teachings that actually are more leaning towards supporting existing and prevailing cultural and social norms rather than teaching the word of God. Let me give you a case in point. Just recently, I had the privilege of being invited to a conference that was held by CITAM. And they themed their women's conference, Women of Impact. And in sharing from a particular text, I chose to highlight the fact that across across the scriptures, women are agents of transformation. You're not this passive creature who is sort of subject to the whims of people.
Right.
In fact, we as well as men are instruments in the hand of God.
Right.
And so I think that, as I said, there are over-reliance on certain texts.
Yeah.
In fact, that text on submission in Ephesians really is right next to the text that calls for couples to submit to one another out of reverence for God. But you don't hear people amplifying that quite as much. So I think there's a way that we need to the pendulum has swung one way.
Now
and
we need to
correct it. Yeah.
And it's true, because as ministers of the word, as people who are in leadership, when it comes to how culture has been shaped, you have to put your voice to it. And maybe you could add your voice to this, Senator, by just sharing a bit.
Actually, I would say that the church does not exist in isolation.
Correct.
We are in a cultural setup and in our African setup where we live in a patriarchal society. And even those who are leaders in the church, they have influence from their culture, they have influence from their upbringing, where a woman should be kind of second citizen. And that influences them. Even when we are talking of equality in the Bible, they still feel that the verse that says the man is the head
is the one that's prominent.
Yes. And so if the man is the head, he's the one who has the say, he's the one who should make decisions, he's the one to carry on with the responsibility of leadership in a society. And so a woman is second-class citizen and kind of must submit to man.
And when we look at it from that perspective, I mean, I don't think that either of us could do without the other. And this is why I love what you're saying, Reverend Linda, about swinging the pendulum back, because there are certain reliances that we have on each other.
That's right.
And which is why we even come into relationship, into marriage, because if you didn't need to depend on this person, then why are you getting married in the first place? And so when we bring it back just to gender-based violence, and there are certain gaps that we have witnessed, in terms of just the relationship. And now we're going to go deeper into the relationship. What kind of strategies can religious institutions use to engage young people in discussions about leading healthy relationships? Because I think that's also a very important thing to note.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the church really does lend itself to the church and religious institutions, let me say that. All sorts of religious institutions, faith-based organizations lend itself to providing the space for constructive conversations about healthy relationships. Young people have a passion and a zest for life. They're curious, they're open, they want to receive information, and the church and religious institutions can share knowledge with regard to healthy relationships. We can talk about the specifics of gender-based violence as it is manifesting in our society at this time, and what it is that young people can actually do to protect themselves. Certain things that we do maybe that lend themselves to making us vulnerable. And we can talk about those in candid ways. I think this is a space where young people can share knowledge. This is a place where we can actually just really articulate the issues and break down the issues for young people. Because, of course, religious institutions, I think the forte of religious institutions is to teach values.
Exactly.
And so I think, as Senator has said, these things don't happen in a vacuum. And as you teach values and you teach morality and so forth, which is not to say that gender-based violence happens because people are immoral, but I'm just saying that you can reinforce safety and protection for our young people.
And safety and protection is obviously a very big thing. We've seen a lot of things that have been coming up, especially, over the last 2 years. There's a huge rise of gender-based violence in Kenya. And some of these attitudes are intertwined with how our cultural mind has been, attuned to. But how effective right now, Senator, are current policies and laws in addressing gender-based violence? And what are the gaps, in your opinion, that need urgent attention?
Actually, I would say that we lack effective policies, and more so the implementation part of it. Like when we look at Sexual Offense Act of 2006, it is good. It is defining what sexual offenses are, but there are gaps, and we need some kind of amendments to the law, because terms are emanating from the things and acts that are now coming up in the society. When we look at the influence of internet, it is so much now on our children.
Yes.
Remember, before in African setup, we had children to be taught values and responsibilities in a home setting.
Yes.
But today, children are not only learning from their parents.
They're learning from around them.
They are around them, and the internet
friends,
is there,
everything.
And friends.
Yes.
They are on their phones. They are seeing what is happening in other countries, and they want to copy that what has been now practiced elsewhere. They want also to practice it.
Right.
And that's why even the meaning of marriage has changed. It was to be initiated and also parents to participate in it. But today, a young man and a young woman will meet in Nairobi and they just declare that they are married.
Yeah. In fact, the other day, did you hear about after the Gen Z marches?
Yes.
There are people who met during the
demonstrations.
And
they walked home and told their parents, "We are married
now." And it's actually scary, because I think that's where we have to come in terms of what is the religious institution doing, what is the government doing, what are we saying in terms of how we are reaching these people. And of course, they want to be talked to in a different language.
Yes.
You know, we can't stick to our traditional way. And you've mentioned some of the gaps, right? So maybe you can highlight for us, from your perspective, which gaps specifically are you highlighting?
Personally, I look at the role that the government institutions that are charged with responsibility of law enforcement, I think there is laxity.
Okay.
Because when these femicide or gender-based violence instances happen, it may take 2 weeks, 3 days,
before
anything happens.
Yeah.
And if a young man sees this other one did it and nothing has happened, will also be encouraged to do it. And looking at the instances that has been happening at we call it B&B.
Yes.
And you can't trace who did it, and we are
the information is all wrong.
The information is all wrong, and yet we'll rely on the CCTV camera. Yet in the past, people could only rely on the community. If I could have found a young man misbehaving on the road,
you can deal with it.
I can deal with it there
today.
And discipline. But today, touch my child, you'll face me.
I think I really struggle with that. I mean, I struggle with that. A child being indisciplined around me, and then I should just let you be. I come from that background where that was instilled in me, and anybody around me could, take care of me quickly, and then tell my parent will double up the punishment.
Yes.
But now when you look at that as a gap, I mean, it comes back to the values that these parents are instilling. And sometimes, as much as we are learning so much with the internet and we're protecting rights, and which is important to protect human rights and all, the Bible does say, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
People, again, forget that it is actually there for you to do it. Proverbs is full of laws that we're supposed to live better by. So for you, from the church perspective, what gaps are you seeing from the religious institutions that could better be be better utilized to influence how, again, because it does come from the parents, what they teach the children then become, as much as there's internet, as much as there's everything. How can we help from the church perspective?
From the church perspective, thank you. I think one of the biggest opportunities, I think it's a gap, and therefore, the flip side of that is that there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
One of the biggest opportunities that I see is the need to train religious leaders as champions who can understand gender-based violence as let me call it, broadly speaking, as a human rights issue, not just as a women's issue.
Correct.
And then to equip these champions with the knowledge that will help them to address GBV effectively, and to be able to amplify what is positive within culture and religion, and to be the ones to advocate for change against those harmful practices.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that religious leaders and religious institutions enjoy huge social capital and huge trust. And I think we have the opportunity to leverage that trust and then to find a way to build these teachings and this knowledge within the religious body of knowledge. I think where it becomes difficult for religious leaders to become these change agents is when they see these things as completely separate issues. But when you talk about GBV as something that is affecting members, affecting congregants, and which is actually addressed in the Word of God, because ultimately God himself is the one who wants us to have abundant life. Let me use biblical language.
Yes.
You may phrase it differently in human rights language as dignity and respect for life, but that's abundant
It is
life.
abundance, yes.
That's abundant life. And so if religious leaders can begin to locate themselves as champions for change and the ones to really address what is harmful in our culture, I think that we could make the most of this opportunity to really integrate, good things in the society and to bring about these changes that we really desire.
I love that. Champions, being the heroes, being the leaders, being at the front.
Being at the forefront.
Because again, you are called to be at the front when you are a leader. So
being at the forefront and not
important.
To be reactionary, waiting
until
for
something
things to happen to women. Is that all we're there for? To bury them when they have been killed, when their lives have been destroyed? I think we need to be more proactive, and I think we need to, seize this opportunity.
I think I can add my voice to what Reverend Linda is saying. Parenting is an issue. Currently, we have so many single parents. I'm not saying that single parents are bad, but when a single mother has children in the home and in the absence of the father, these children want to have a father figure in their lives. And they can only copy from men that they see around their lives and around them. I would say that the church should take the responsibility to provide these parental figures within the church setup, that those in the church, youth in the church, single mothers in the church should not have that gap that I'm a mother who is raising up young boys and I have no money in my life. But within the church,
I can find them.
I like
and
that.
Identify myself with one. And then that will make them now copy and get and learn values from the church and that responsibility. And again, the church should not look at single parents and see if it is a sin, and see if those who are single parents should not be part of the Holy Communion, because it is the society we are in. So there should be specific attention to groups of people, widows, single parents, widowers, and those who are in a family setup with the father and mother. It is very important.
So it's all inclusive and making sure that we cater for those who might actually lack the value from home.
Yes.
And when we look at just how the different things that affect the home also have, to be looked at from a government perspective, from a leadership perspective. And you sit in that place in terms of leadership, and you have been able to see just how the implementation of these things is. Let's talk about bringing them back to the village, bringing them back to where the grassroots. So that's where we've had many stories. Many of the stories go unreported. There are cases of gender-based violence that by the time they get reported, it is a horrific thing. And that tells us that there may be more than just that happening. So what role do you believe the connection between leadership, local communities, the grassroots organizations, even as we include the church, what role can they play in preventing and especially responding to that gender-based violence situation faster?
I would say that we kind of have legislative gaps, that we really need laws that are purely to guide our young people. Because looking at it and the way things are happening, we may lose a generation. Because these people who do not have proper parenting, proper guidance, even in leadership, the leaders who are in parliament, at the county assembly, at every level in our country, they need also to play a role. If they are county governments, they need legislation that will take care of the young people. They are emerging Gen Zs and Gen Alpha and the rest. They need to copy also from this leadership. That's why those who are in leadership are also entrusted with a bigger responsibility, that they will live exemplary lives that the young people can copy. But when we have leaders who are also doing the wrong things, and the young people, because I know children learn more by seeing and copying what the grown-ups are doing, rather than telling them, do this. And we usually say, do what I say and don't do what I do.
But that doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't work. So we really need to have role models in our leadership in this nation. At the National Assembly, at the Senate, at the national level, we need laws that guide our young people. And for sure, we need also to talk about women empowerment. Because when we talk of gender-based violence, it's the woman or the girl gender who is oppressed. If women are empowered, if women are informed, if women know their rights, even at the grassroots, they will rise up and say, this is my right. I know this is wrong. I can report this. And when they go to report, I would speak to the policemen and law enforcers of this country. Please, when women come to report gender-based violence instances, don't mistreat them. Don't talk bad to them. Don't look down upon them. Take it seriously. And I would advise that if we could have gender desk in every police station, that when women go to report such cases on GVP, then they have confidence that I'm going to speak to a woman or to a man who will listen to me.
And take care of me.
And and don't ridicule me and look down upon me.
Because I think that the element of being ridiculed and the element of being told, you always hear things of people who are sharing a bed, we don't get involved, or it was your fault, or what were you doing wrong? And I feel like even when we bring that back even into the church, a lot of times, and, of course, churches are diverse, the institutions are diverse. There will be instances where a woman has gone through something, but she's even afraid to say it in her safest space, which should be her church, because she will be immediately castigated. What did you do is the question, as opposed to how can we help?
Sure.
So maybe you can just shed a bit of light on how we need to think differently and approach those women differently from a church perspective.
To be honest with you, I think, again, the church, it is a gap. Maybe let me just start by acknowledging that it is a gap. I mean, the church is the church and I think religious institutions present an interesting scenario when you look at the makeup and the composition. The average church has 60% of its composition being made up of women.
Correct.
But at leadership level, you will find that the leadership level is dominated by men. And so I think, let me throw this out as a challenge with all humility and respect to we, the religious leaders, and to the religious institutions, that we ourselves must act as a model for change and ensure that our own structures and leadership are also inclusive of women. I mean, God's word says male and female, he created them.
Absolutely.
And I think I want to commend the church and religious institutions as well, because on many levels, that has begun to happen. But I want to encourage that the leadership levels themselves must be, the face of the leadership must represent the constituency.
Yes, because the people there are mainly women, and we need to see ourselves there and say,
we see ourselves there.
I can do this. I am also capable of being in this
place. And in many ways that makes it very empowering. And I think then women would, probably demonstrate or exhibit greater confidence that our stories will be heard and our stories will be told. When I take a text, I deal with it very differently, probably from my male counterparts, just because I'm talking from my lived experience. And I think that will be one of the ways that we can infuse for women a sense that this is a safe space. This is a space that understands me. This space gets me.
And this space cares for me.
This space cares for me.
Overall.
And it's, again, not to suggest in any way. I think you've amplified the issue of partnership.
Yes.
This what we all bring to the table,
Right.
and I think that must continue.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think there is a way when we do this in our church structures, it becomes a way of saying to women that we really matter and that we bring value to the table. I think we can also make churches safe spaces where women can, churches have all sorts of exciting ministries that they offer, including counseling services, psychosocial support at all sorts of levels, professional levels, as well as lay counseling.
Yeah.
And I think we can make churches and religious institutions to be safe spaces where women can access free medical support if they needed it, free counseling, free legal support. And I know that many religious institutions are already doing that, and I commend them.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to pick up the momentum so that women can be sure in their minds that in the event I find myself in trouble, I'm in an unthinkable situation, help is at hand.
And I'm safe.
Picking it from where she has left.
Yes.
I think nothing for us without us.
Yeah.
When she talks of church leadership incorporating and accepting women to be leaders in the church, it is very important.
Yeah.
Because women will feel safe when they have another woman.
Of course.
The experiences that women go through, the problems, the uniqueness. If a woman is there as a reverend, as a bishop, as a canon, then the women within the church and those who come to church will feel, okay, one of us is there.
And I can talk to her.
I can talk to her.
She understands.
Things that I cannot say to a man, I'll say to her. That is very key.
That is important.
And that takes me to the national leadership as well.
Yes.
It is very important to allow women in leadership spaces also. We have been struggling as a country with the 2/3 gender rule. Even as I speak here, the National Assembly of Kenya is unconstitutionally constituted because we do not have the 2/3. We have not adhered to 2/3 gender rule.
We have not, actually.
We have not.
Yeah.
In my first bill, when I got to Senate, was on 2/3 gender, the actualization of 2/3 gender. Then I was approached by the Minister of Gender by then and told to step down on my bill because the president had signed a memorandum to ensure this is actualized. And that was to come through NADGO report. And then what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing. It wasn't there. So I have taken up my bill again and I'm pushing it through.
And I really hope it goes through.
Very
because
important.
It's important.
Let's have it. And let's have women elected and appointed.
And I think from the leadership perspective in national government, if we are not represented there, most of the things that are happening right now to women, like I said, the femicide cases you've seen, and the action that needs to be taken as they are happening is slowed down because we have nobody voicing for us. Nobody speaking for us. So for our prayer for you is that you actually get to push your bill and it actually gets, because it is written that it should be a 2/3, gender rule should be observed. But let's bring it back a little bit to what your personal experiences have been. Maybe you've had a personal experience with gender-based violence, whether it's, close to home, whether it's dealing with people who are around you. There's sometimes that people assume that when you're sitting in a position of leadership, you have never seen it, experienced it, whether growing up, whether with close friends, family. Maybe you've gone through something like that and just seen the effect. So we also get to understand how heavy it can be. Maybe you can share if you've experienced it, Reverend.
Yeah, I think I'm not really sure if I would classify the experience I'm going to share as gender-based violence, but I think Senator referenced the fact that we really live in a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
I lost my father about 5 years ago now, and I remember being part of his principal caregivers at the time when he was unwell.
Mm.
But at the point when he passed on, I think that's when I came into contact with this dynamic in some of our Kenyan cultures where a daughter who has been married essentially doesn't have much say in that home anymore. that really threw me because, we're girls only home. And the way my father raised us, and I really appreciate him, he gave us a good education and, in a sense, the confidence to do whatever needed to be done. We didn't even have the luxury of saying that we were going to depend on some brothers to get things done. So the point of his passing, we sort of just took responsibility to get things moving in the direction of giving him a dignified farewell service. And that was that. Not understanding that was flying in the face of this whole cultural dynamic. And then just getting to be told that, in fact, you don't actually have as much say here as you may think that you do. Now, I think the challenge was that we didn't relent. We did what we thought was right, not understanding that it was fairly offensive to those
the people at home.
Yeah, those in our, in our extended family.
Yeah.
So, lessons learned.
Yeah.
But as I said, for me, I did not have, Kenyans say, sin otherwise.
Yeah.
What was I supposed to do?
The situation is here.
The situation is at hand.
And
it calls for loyalty.
Yeah.
You're loyal to your loved ones to the end.
Yeah.
And so I think I just want to, again, encourage us to recognize what Senator said at the very beginning. I think we exercise even our faith in a certain cultural context. And those cultural connotations spill over into the faith space so that sometimes we don't even know, are we doing this because of faith or are we doing this because of culture? And we must be interpreters, continually interpreting faith and culture so that we amplify what is good. And we downplay then what is not necessary or what must give way to the changing of times.
Yeah, I love that. Senator.
Thank you. I would say that not everything in our culture is bad.
Yeah.
Even the church should take it that way, that not everything entirely in our tradition, in our culture is bad. We should encourage, and the church should give space to some things that were done culturally that are good and can constructively help our people. From my experience, Kaleche, I would say that I can talk much on political violence. And because I've interacted this day in, day out for several electoral cycles, and women who volunteer or give themselves to run for political positions, they really face a lot of violence. And I would give a classic example of a woman, because women in this nation do not have a lot of resources. And when they are running for a position, whether to be an elected MC or member of county assembly, member of national assembly or senate or governor, whichever position, they would use the meager resources that they have, the little that they have. And a woman in Trans Nzoia, actually I'm giving an example of last election. She was running for member of county assembly. And because she didn't have lots of resources, she decided to use family members to be agents and returning officers in a case.
To get it done.
Because she didn't have a lot of money. And so she involved even her children. And in particular, she involved her daughter who was in university. But our male competitors decided to target the girl.
Oh, no.
They went for the girl.
Oh, no.
Gang raped her.
No.
Yes. And left her in the bush for death. And the man, because she's married, the man is waiting at home for the daughters and sons and whoever she had involved. This girl doesn't turn up. And then they start looking for the girl. They went all over looking for her. They found her and almost unconscious. And then she's brought back in the house. The man turns against the wife.
Why?
It is your fault.
Oh my God.
Why did you take my daughter to this? Why did you involve her? So it is you and your daughter to leave my home. And it became a big issue. As the president of the Women League, the woman I was the first person to turn to. What do I do? And we are now to get to help her, link her with FIDA and other organizations that could help. First of all, we also want this girl to undergo some kind of counseling.
Yeah, because obviously the trauma and everything.
And that trauma, she even said that she's not going back to college. She's not going back to the university. She feels so bad. She feels she is useless, and also kind of was guilty, that meant the mother to feel so guilty because she's the one
who gave her
who gave her the
job.
job. So it became a big issue. But we also supported the lady to go to court, and we had even to changa, do some contribution to get a lawyer's fee for the girl to get justice. It was terrible. And this is just one
case.
That is just one case.
Just one case.
There are so many. I can't name one by one, but there are so many. But that really touched me because we had to sit the girl down. We had to send people to go to talk to her. We had to get to plead with the lawyer, even when the woman is giving her so little that then you accept to represent her, and he did. I would talk of what women go through after elections. And it is so terrible, even in political parties. I would encourage other political parties, after every election, please get women who participated and take them through healing process. This is very important. When women go for political positions, they lose. If they are married, their husbands turn against them. You have lost our resources. You have wasted family resources. Now you are useless. Who told you to go to this space?
Yeah.
Some are divorced.
And they are attacked for being divorced?
Yes. Others are separated. Others are told to go and bring back family resources that you have lost in this useless process.
Yeah.
And it becomes so bad. So this woman feels rejected. They suffer from rejection. They feel that they have nowhere to turn to. Not to the family, because the family feels so discouraged that she did not get the position and she has wasted time, energy, and maybe they have gotten bad name now out of this.
And even just being attacked. I think even being attacked for being a woman who is running, there's always something that will come at you, whether you're married or not married or what. There's just something.
Speaking into that, just relating it to the instance that I talked about, what is interesting for me is that I think some of our Kenyan cultures have that thing that when you are married, you don't have a voice in the home that you originated from. But even where you are married, people will say, well, really, you came and found us here.
So wait first.
How do you even purport?
Why are you talking?
Yeah, how are you purporting to come here and you even want to be an elected representative?
Yeah,
it's almost like a no-win situation.
Yeah. But I really think that how we the women ourselves position ourselves and the way we think about it, the way we present it out there will change something, because they tell us a lot of times that we are our own worst enemies.
True.
Because, I mean, there are instances of women who've gone through gender-based violence, and then other women attack them for, where were you going? What were you doing? And it is even, I believe, more painful if a fellow woman is attacking me about a situation that happened to me that I obviously had no control over. And I know in politics, it's unbelievable, even just being on that floor, standing up to speak. There are colleagues who might want to boo you just because you are a woman. But I think the fight must go on.
Yes.
The fight must go on. And for what you have shared with us here today in terms of just putting your best foot forward, ladies, please continue. Don't give up the fight. Please continue.
Just one word on what Reverend Pastor Linda said.
Yeah.
Where does the woman belong? Where she's born or where she's married?
It's a huge cultural question.
I wish I could answer that, but because I'm not yet married, let me keep quiet. Let me keep quiet. But we have run out of time. Thank you so much, Reverend Linda. Thank you, Senator Beth Syengo, for your invaluable contribution to this conversation. I've enjoyed it so much. We could go on for ever and ever. But you too can go on with the conversation by hitting us up on our socials at the Oslo Center. That is on all pages. And make sure you use hashtag #TheDemocracyPulse, hashtag 16 days of activism, and let us know exactly where you stand on that. In fact, that question, where does the woman belong? Is she in her parental home or in her marital home? Where does she belong? You please let us know what you think about that. As we wind up this particular episode, my name is Kalecha Muma, and I'm so excited that you are part of the conversation with us. We definitely have more coming, and you need to stick around to enjoy as we commemorate the 16 days of activism right here on Democracy Pulse. Till then, see you later.